Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio in Atlanta, Georgia. It's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by Kennesaw State University's Executive MBA program, the accelerated degree program for working professionals looking to advance their career and enhance their leadership skills. And now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. Today on the show, we have Myrna Clayton with SHOWAbility. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Lee.
I am so excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us about SHOWAbility. How you serving folks?
You know what? SHOWAbility empowers talented performing artists across the disability spectrum, whether that's born or acquired, a parent or not a parent. And we're excited about supporting artists that are musicians, singers, as well as actors. We're frequently contacted by casting agents looking for actors with disabilities.
So what is the genesis of the idea? How did this come about?
You know, I'm a professional singer. That's what I do. And I happened to see a young boy about 11 years old a while ago. When I say a while ago, like over 10 years ago, struggle to get up 3 steps into a church pulpit in order to sing. But Lee, when he started singing, he was phenomenal. And I didn't have the presence of mind at the time to ask his name or anything, but he crossed my mind about 5 years later, and I began asking musicians, corporate band, choir directors, school band directors, and and chorus directors if they knew any singers with disabilities. And Lee, no one knew any singers with disabilities, and that just didn't make sense to me. And so at that point, I began just kind of asking around more and more, and I started the organization because I was like, there's an opportunity and there's a need. And so it went from there.
So what did you see as the opportunity?
Well, first of all, as a singer, we understand that everybody has a talent. And I knew at that time, I did not know the statistics. Now I know the statistics. The disability community is the largest minority population in the country. 26% of the U.S. population have a disability. That's 1 in 4 that have a disability. I didn't know that statistic then, but I knew that if no one knew anybody, then there was something there. Just to let you know, also, I have an MBA and I worked in corporate and I worked in new product and new business development. And so I operated conceptually looking at research to find needs. And the other piece of that, if you just add one family member to the disability community, that 26%, that's 52%. That means that over half of the U.S. population is connected to this population. And that means, from a business standpoint, that there's huge opportunity. Subsequent to that, the discretionary spending power is larger than the Black and Latino population combined. The spending power is $21 billion that the disability community has. We, in the general population, I give us an out. I don't have a disability, and I give us an out because from childhood, we're taught not to point and not to stare. And so pretty much we have blinders up. And so they don't even come to our minds. But when you look at the opportunity and you see no one's fitting that need, no one's meeting that need. And oftentimes as well, when we think about the disability community, we think about the special ed class. We don't think about those persons like a Stevie Wonder, or we don't think about persons that are wheelchair users. We don't think about that. That doesn't come to mind. And then along with that, because we get nervous when we get around someone, we're not comfortable. We never learned how to engage. And so what we do is we look the other way. We turn. We don't even oftentimes speak, because we don't know what to do. We're uncomfortable and we don't like being uncomfortable. We don't like looking, quote unquote, ignorant to the situation. And so because of that, we don't know. And we're missing out on the opportunity, the business opportunity within this population. And again, along with the person with disability, there's a whole family that comes along with them, and there are certain needs that they have. And so our thing was about artists meening employment and enjoyment. Everybody wants to have a good time. This disability does not mean not able. They're human beings just like everybody else. That's a human being. They're not robots. We've got enough bots around here going around now. These are human beings that have the same desires and needs and wants that everybody else. And so everything that you need, Lee, they need.
Now, once you had kind of this aha moment of, hey, there should be a place for people with disabilities, or they should be more visible. How are you playing in this ecosystem? Because I would imagine once that light bulb went off, now all of a sudden a lot of things become visible. Like you were like, okay, there needs to be communication with casting directors. There needs to be communication with creative people to include people with disability in the performing arts. Like, what part does SHOWAbility, play in?
We actually, first of all, when we started casting and all of that we started in actually 2011, and casting and all of that wasn't even on the page. Our biggest thing, again, we're working with performing artists. And so our biggest thing was getting on stage, and most stages are not accessible. We can't get on stage, though there's an ADA, it's there. And so the biggest thing for us is finding the talent and identifying the talent so that when the opportunity presents itself, we can present them and have them ready. When I'm saying them, talented persons, talented artists, just like any other presenter of talent. You're making sure that they are ready for the opportunities. Now, we have shows, we have concerts. We actually also have, right now we have an inclusive chorus that's made up of talented singers with and without disabilities. And what we're doing is actually singing the national anthem at major sports events. And so that's something that we're reaching out to do. We're also bringing attention to the Americans with Disabilities Act and the fact that the general population needs to know. And so we're having an event July 26th coming up that is collaborating with major organizations like Bobby Dodd Institute, like the state's ADA coordinator, like Southeast ADA, like Disability Link, and a number of disability organizations to let the population know there are 61 million people in the U.S. that have a disability. We don't realize how huge this is. And so we're trying, again, our thing is to reach our target audience is the disability community, not the general population. Because again, this is not a niche. 26% is not a niche. And so we're looking to create the awareness and for opportunities, again, for employment and enjoyment. And so when we started realizing that so many people were not aware. And so it's a lot of consulting that I do. And it's preparing the artists as well and the performers to engage with others and inform others on how to respond to them. Accessibility and accommodations are very important for this population. And so we're looking and wanting to engage them. In terms of the casting agents, they find us because they have the need. They're when a movie is looking has a position for a role, then they're sending out for actors. And so they contact us. Acting was not on our radar in the very beginning, but 3 things happened in 2019 that was significant within the disability community and the entertainment industry. Number 1, and you may or may not know about these folks, but number 1, Cody Lee, young man who was blind and on the autism spectrum, won America's Got Talent. Number 1, artist, grand prize. That happened. Number 2, Ali Stroker, who is an actress on Broadway, won Best Actor, a Tony Award for Best Actor for the production of Oklahoma. Now, of course, Oklahoma is not written for wheelchair users, but she's a wheelchair user. And guess what? Every show, not every night, every show, whether that's matinee, midday, or evening, she had to be lifted onto stage in her wheelchair in order to perform. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
But she won Best Actor. And then third thing that happened in 2019 was there's a documentary that was released on Netflix called Crip Camp that introduced the plight that led ultimately to the 504 and then eventually to the ADA. Those 3 things were significant and really brought to the forefront the disability community. And after that, right, was the pandemic. And in the midst of the pandemic, we had persons from casting agents contacting us saying, hey, because there are not that many organizations that boast about having access to talented artists with disabilities.
Now, when you're defining disabilities, is it everything from, like you mentioned, people in wheelchair, you mentioned people, with vision or hearing challenges, but also autistic? Does that fit in there as well?
we say across the disability spectrum. And so that is someone who's born with a disability, whether that's cerebral palsy, that's blind, that's deaf, and then as well as someone who's acquired, and that's what the Shepherd Center refers to it. They've acquired a disability, meaning they had a car accident or something happened, and so that's a wheelchair user or someone who has an invisible disability. Brain trauma, things like that. Our thing is the talent has no bounds. There's no limit to the talent. It's about the performance and the ability to perform. And so for us, and yes, included in that is Down syndrome, autism, those with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities. It just depends on the talent and a person's ability. I tell people quick, this is not a kumbaya thing. Nobody wants to be patronized. We are very much so for folks who are talented. We say that we want to be for the arts and entertainment industry what the Paralympics and the Special Olympics are in the sports industry, and that is showcasing talent and excellence. And it puts it in perspective because we've got it. We're not, there are businesses that are out there that are doing it. It just so happens that for most of us, we're not aware of it because again, we never learned how to engage. And so for us, for the most part, they're hidden in plain view.
Now, does the scope of your work stop at training aspiring performers?
That's a great question. And no, we do artist development, and then we present opportunities when job opportunities they reach out to us. We then facilitate them going for that opportunity. We also have shows and events, and present them, for things like that. As I mentioned, the inclusive course. We've performed at the Atlanta Gladiators. We're going to be performing at Georgia State's opening game. We're looking at performing at the Falcons and Atlanta United. And our goal for that is really creating awareness of the talents within the disability community. We also have some of our outcomes are we actually present artists. Like there's a young man that's on the autism spectrum, and he's now 20, but when we met him, he was 16. And he sounded like the 35-year-old Elvis Presley. And he was phenomenal. And he had all the mannerism, all the dances, moves, and everything. And his name is his stage name is Delvis. And so we present opportunities and showcase talent like that as well. And so there's so much talent. What differentiates us is it's performing arts. Artists that have visual arts or sculpting, that's not what we do. We do anybody that would want to be on stage or in front of a camera, or work on a crew, then that's our space, in presenting talent.
Now, do you ever go into, maybe the production company or a writer's room to explain, kind of the benefit and the value to them to maybe expand their maybe unconscious bias to include people with disabilities in their creative work?
The honest answer is no. If they're interested, then we will do it. But it's a huge ask to introduce the possibility and change someone's perspective. They're already nervous and uncomfortable. Our target audience are those people who are connected to the disability community. Again, it's 52% of the U.S. population. So that 48%, they're going to eventually come around, but I'm not wanting to convince someone of the opportunity here. There are people that are connected, that are family members, that see it and get it. And because it's such a hard, it's a hard pull, in order to convince someone of the opportunity. And I'd much rather go where we're appreciated and not tolerated.
Right. I just didn't know if there's any kind of a educational or evangelistic element to this, where it's not that people aren't including them as part of their scripts or their writing or their video game or their music video, that it isn't occurring to them, because maybe it isn't as present as it would be if somebody had a cousin or a brother or somebody with a disability. That would be, of course, I would include that, or yeah, that would be great. Let's have one of the characters be somebody in a wheelchair. And
that is happening. And believe it or not, it's happening a lot in terms of people are becoming more and more aware. One of the things that when the mere fact that we show up, we're informing and educating. For example, when we go to theaters and the stages aren't accessible, I'm educating as we go. We can't get on stage. And so there's an opportunity for education in that respect. And when we're doing casting calls, a lot of times the folks that are below the line, if you know about film, they're not knowledgeable at all about the disability community. They've been hired to accommodate a person, but they're not aware. And so something that we're looking to do coming up this October is have an event, an expo, where we're looking to educate those that are below the line in the film industry about just kind of how to accommodate persons that have a disability, because again, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to engage. And so it's very much so an informative space. And we're looking to have that expo coming up in October. October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And so that's why we chose October. And it's going to be the end of October, kind of like around the 26th or the 20th. We're in the final stages of preparing and planning that. We're in the preliminary stages of fine tuning and probably the month of July, which is the ADA month, is really going after more aggressively our sponsors for that particular expo. But we're anticipating a good 200 to 300 people to come to that expo as a starting place. But yes, we are, like I said, every time we show up, we're informing people, and as they're informed, then they're able to become the evangelists for us. You know, one of the things that we're sad about is, and I'm so grateful for you, is media does not cover this topic that much, and hardly ever. And I think, again, because people are uncomfortable about the topic, and so therefore we much prefer to go where we're, again, appreciated and not tolerated, because again, that's 52% of the U.S. population who understands. And so we're not talking about, 10% or 2%, that's niche. But 26% of the U.S. population, there's a need there, and there's an opportunity there. And so having conversations with you and people like you, platforms like you, is a part of that informing and that evangelizing. Because I don't shy away from telling the story, but in terms of our business strategy, our target audience is the disability community and those who love them. That's our target audience.
Now, is the target Atlanta centric right now? Because you're here in Atlanta, but this is a big film and entertainment town, so that gives you access to people that are from all over. Or are you looking to go nationwide or international? What's kind of the dream here?
Actually, we're actually Metro Atlanta and not just Atlanta City, and we expand out into Georgia, and very much so the plan is sort of tiered into the Southeast. And I'm commissioned by the U.S. State Department to represent American music abroad at U.S. embassies around the world. And so as a singer, I'm global, and my cause is the disability community. And so it's very much so a global situation, because disability is not unique to America. And so I'm doing my consulting, I'm doing my evangelizing, I guess, if you will, whenever I am performing abroad, because I'm asking, hey, I want to have persons with disabilities invited, no matter if they don't want to come, that's a whole different thing, but invited to come to the shows. And it highlights, the inaccessibility of some theaters and the accessibility of others. And again, it brings to their awareness, because I'm making the request as the artist that's coming to perform, of the opportunity of, I don't want to say, the missed or the lack thereof, but it also informs me that America is not ahead of the game as it relates to disability. There are so many countries that are much further ahead than America as it relates to the disability community. And so it is a global situation, because the disability community is global. This is, again, not unique to America. But in terms of showability, we are taking our steps because we definitely see the need in Georgia, and then going from further in America. So yes, national, we'd like to do things like have either a franchise or a chapter or something in other cities. But But for right now, it's, hey, yes, again, film is hot here in Atlanta and in Georgia. But we were here before that. And we're happy to ride that momentum rather than, just kind of try to do anything other than ride the momentum. Because again, the need is there. They reached out to us because again, there's not another organization like SHOWAbility in the country that focuses on talented performing artists across the disability spectrum. And so we very much so want to expand.
And so what do you need more of? How can we help?
Thank you. We'd love to have sponsors. We'd love to have receive grants. We're a nonprofit 501c3 nonprofit. And so that we'd love to have volunteers because we always are in need of volunteers. And not just volunteers that kind of show up for the event, but volunteers who are skilled volunteers. Like we right now need marketing support for that. And so that kind of help. And then what you're doing right now, Lee, is so very helpful because your audience now is informed. And so we appreciate that. And then the other piece, we need artists. Oftentimes we find that artists don't want to self-identify, and you can imagine why, and so they don't want to come into the spotlight because no one wants to be jeered at or, made fun of. And it really takes a certain kind of personality of an artist to push past that. And so we are always looking for artists that are talented. And so we have auditions. And so folks can reach out to us at our website, or they can contact me. Our website is showability.org. They can send emails to info@showability.org, or they can contact me directly at mclayton@showability.org. But however persons feel like they are interested and would like to be a part, we want them. With our event coming up in July, we're looking for volunteers for that. And so they can reach out to us for that. And then lastly, we are very much so looking for persons who are connected, that are in our target audience and that are connected to the disability community. A person, say, for instance, an artist especially, artists are sensitive, so they may not say, I want to do it, but there may be someone that has heard them, whether that be a teacher or a friend, and, hey, I want that person to contact me and then give me that artist's information, and then I'll contact the artist, because a lot of times persons will make recommendations and the artist will never contact, but I'll contact them and I'll be able to say, hey, Lee told me that you're amazing. You're an amazing musician. I'd love to hear you. Can you send me a tape, or can I come and hear you perform someplace? And it starts like that. And it's really an encouragement to just kind of come out of your shell. And, or I heard that you're an actor. We got some opportunities that we'd like to present to you. And so it goes from there. So those are the kinds of things that we would love to have. And then lastly, from a media standpoint, Lee, for you to tell your colleagues, hey, this is something that is worth talking about. And so I appreciate you so much for giving us this platform.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing such important work and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.